I'm just trying to get people to look from a different perspective.
There's people out there who are struggling.
We can't subdue our anger.
You deserve to be heard too, just like you.
I want to inspire other people.
I don't want just my voice to be heard.
Have empathy and sympathy for people.
Make the right choice so it doesn't affect your future.
People are so ready to listen to the first opinion.
They don't want to have to change themselves.
I feel like you have to talk about it.
If you spend your life trying to fit into a label, you're never gonna find out who you are.
Beep! Hong Kong! Lady Gaga's I Was Born This Way was only on half volume, but it felt like it was blasting. Are you nervous, Adam? My mother asked me, but I couldn't hear her over the lights, the sounds. There were too many of them. Nevertheless, I knew I was ready. Everything was in order. I had my shoelaces tied the way I liked them. I had my favorite and only red sneakers on. Also, I had every single rule of the Acme Handbook memorized. It was undeniable. Just turning 18, I was ready for my first job interview. I always loved to go to Acme with my mom. I always knew when we had to go since my favorite and routine foods of the week were gone. When we get there, I'd go right to the can aisle. If there was a worker stocking, of course I'd offer my help because they never do it the correct way. All the times me and my mother spent there together faded away and my nerves took control. The same Acme I had been to so many times before now felt like a whole new world. My mother told me to get out the car. Walking in, I kept my head down. I hated when people stared at me. They'd always look, but I never really saw. Some of them would smile, but it was like they felt sorry for me. Lights were too bright. I began to shake. Shh. My mother calmed me down. We took our deep breaths. Then a man walked over to me. He must have been the manager since he was so tall and his name tag said so. His name was Tom. I thought Tom might like to hear it, so I began to recite the rules. 1, always wear your name tag. 2, always wear your uniform. 3, always be on time. 4, never eat the food. 5, always ask customers if they need help. His waving hand gesture was my signal to stop. He looked me over once, then twice. He got a weird look on his face. I didn't like the face. It reminded me of when my mother told me she had to put our dog down. I began to sweat. Can he fire me before I even work here? He cleared his throat and told my mother, "We are not hiring right now, ma'am." I looked to my right because I distinctly remember seeing the Help Wanted poster. That didn't make any sense. My mother must have caught on to something I didn't because she looked furious. I just hope I wouldn't be the cause of another fight between my mother and whoever got in her way. To my dissatisfaction, she began to yell. My ears began to ring, so I covered them. Even through the muffled sound, I heard what she said. What? What was she talking about? No, not me. I'm not handicapped. I'm not old. I don't sit in a wheelchair. Before I knew it, these thoughts became words, and the words became screams. I want to work here. One after the other, just screams. I felt my body on the cold towel of the Acme floor, but not exactly sure how I got there. My mother had tears in her eyes. She couldn't find the words to say. I couldn't hear her over the lights, the sound, my stupid shoe being untied, my shirt scratching my skin too hard. She hugged me tight, just how I like it. I always imagined that I would be manager. The name tag securely pinned on my right side would say, manager. Adam. I would ride my red bike from my big red house bright and early just so I can stack the cans. I would love to stack the cans. All the labels can be seen clearly, and then all the colors would be in the arrangement of the rainbow, and then all the employees would clap and cheer because they'd never seen anything more beautiful in their entire lives. And I would be the one interviewing people. And I wouldn't ask too many questions. I wouldn't make them feel uncomfortable. Everyone would be able to work at Acme. When I surfaced back to reality, all the store workers were looking at me. I didn't want to talk, so I ran to the car. And I turned the music up. It was that same freaking song, that annoying song. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this way. The perfect lyrics made up for my mother's silence.
So there's different degrees of what you can be diagnosed with. My own brother is diagnosed to be on the spectrum, but he's very low. So he only has like sensory issues, like the way he feels things are different than other people. But people with autism can have things as far as not being able to speak, or their whole senses are off. But people on the spectrum lower, like, have different degrees of it. I mean, I feel like everybody has sensory things that make your like skin crawl, like that's a sensory thing. So like if you can imagine whatever makes your skin crawl, times that by 100, that would be what it would be like to be on the spectrum. Like the lights being so bright, like your tag on your shirt, that bothers you.
I couldn't hear her over the lights, the sounds, my shoes being untied, and the tag on my shirt scratching my skin too hard.
Sometimes it's hard for him to just say the things he wants to say. There's like a block sometimes, like a wall. That frustrates me from just seeing him and loving him, but it's also frustrating when I'm like, why is he acting like this? Because he's a normal like kid, like he's very low on the spectrum. And then sometimes I have to remember that has all the looks and the personality to be not on the spectrum, but he is, and that's something often forgotten. I just feel like people don't think about it. Like, you see a child or even an adult in the streets or in a store who might be having like a panic attack or just having an overload of sensories, and nobody thinks, oh, well, maybe that's the reason. They just judge them and look at them like a certain way. We should have empathy and sympathy for people on the spectrum.
You know, originally, autism came out as a diagnosis, and it was really classified or described as the children who were nonverbal and who had no real evident connection to the outside world, including their parents, right? The world kind of happened around them, and they were isolated in their own headspace. And as time went on, I think they realized, well, that's not all there is to this. And Hans Asperger is the one who discovered autistic children who were very verbal.
I know the biggest fear of a parent is like, are they going to be able to live the normal life? Like the life you hope when you have a kid. Are they going to get married? Are they going to get a job? Are they going to have kids? Are they going to have a house and be able to live there? And that's why you don't want to go around saying, oh, well, you know, treat him nice because he's on the spectrum. You don't want to say that. You want him to live a normal life. You want him to just grow up to be a normal person. And like, he doesn't even know. Because my mom just doesn't want to tell him because she thinks she doesn't want that to hold him back. She doesn't want him to have that idea about himself in his head. So eventually we're going to tell him, but I think now's not the time.
I have friends who have neurotypical children, and it's scary for them too to see them launch, you know? I mean, you raise them up to a certain point and you're waiting to see what happens with them and what they decide they want to do, and then who are they going to meet and when am I going to get a grandchild, right? Mm-hmm. For me, it's terrifying. Will he get sustainable and meaningful work? I know he can do it, but it's terrifying. And it's terrifying because the world is not kind. You know, to many, many people.
I think it's frustrating because you want there to be like a special thing for him because you know that he's different in a good way, but you can't go around and tell everyone. Like, that's the frustrating part, So he just has to live a normal life differently. I feel like you just need to educate yourself, because people who don't have someone with autism or like even Down syndrome like in their family, they're not gonna know anything about it. You know what? I feel like just go out of your way to just understand. You should want to know everyone around you, like what their symptoms are and such things. Like, just educate yourself, and then you won't be so judgmental.
One of the biggest pitfalls in the history of supportive employment of people with disabilities working has been the focus on job readiness, has been trying to assess this person has this set of skills, and so therefore they're ready for a job, which is totally bogus, right? Because there are so many different things in all sorts of different jobs that make someone good at it, bad at it, capable of handling it, not capable. It's important to know that everyone has a personal genius, that there is something about them that somebody will want to employ, that will be a way for them to make money. And you may not know what it is, and you may feel like, I went to this one interview and it didn't work out, so therefore I'm not going to be able to make money. I'm not going to be able to make friends at my job. I'm not going to be able to have my name tag that has my name on it. All those things that we all get pride from. But it does exist. You have that. Everybody has that. And some folks need help with that. Sometimes you need an actual person to go with you who knows exactly how to help you. Sometimes you just need someone to show you the right door that you're supposed to go through. So the law says that anyone who needs a reasonable accommodation should get it in order to have whatever job. And so job coaches are reasonable accommodation in human form. That's what we do. We go and we help people once they are employed and help them with whatever they need. We try and assess what a person's strengths are, what a person's, how their disability affects how they process information, how they handle things, what environment's going to work best for them, what are stressors that are going to occur, and then match that to different types of jobs. So we're never going to say this person isn't ready for employment. We might say this person can't be Beyonce's backup dancer, but we're never going to, but if that's what they're really interested in, we're going to try and find, okay, what's the most adjacent thing to that based on what we've observed with them would be a good fit for them. So the history of supported employment is that people with disabilities, people with autism, whatever, often didn't work. They were put off into institutions, and so integrated employment, working with people without disabilities, just wasn't an option. And over time, we've gotten along the road. So the next step beyond never working was only working with people with disabilities. So in a sheltered workshop, where they're not interacting with the public, where they are almost always just doing the most menial tasks, even if they could handle something else. And the setup in those environments is that they get paid something that's called a sub-minimum wage. Sometimes they get paid based on how much work they do. So the example we always talk about is if one employee assembles 10 widgets and they don't have a disability, and then a person with a disability has a slow hour and they assemble 6 widgets, the person with the disability would have gotten paid less. But the person without the disability, if they assembled 6 widgets, is getting paid the same as the person who just did 10. There's no difference for you and me on our job if you're good at your job or if I'm bad at my job. But someone with a disability, they were getting paid less. Or they just have a minimum, they have a sub-minimum wage. They're getting $2.80 an hour or $3.50 an hour. So we went from not working at all, working in these sheltered workshops, to now where the focus is entirely about people having integrated jobs. And that's something where if we encounter someone who doesn't want to make that happen, then it's a pretty easy argument because it's against the law. That's discrimination. You're not allowed to do that.
Then I would say you will never find a more dedicated worker, and you're dismissing him this way is to your own loss, to your own detriment. You would have somebody who would be on time, if not early, and would stay for their full shift. And if you tell them to put their phone in their locker, they will never go get that phone. You tell them to do something, they will do it. The world is not always kind, but you be kind. that when you find the thing that makes you so happy, you will find that doors will open for you, that your life will have meaning because you're doing what you love, whatever that is. And don't let anyone tell you that what it is that makes you happy is silly, because all that matters is that it's something that brings you joy, and then you will have a successful life regardless of what you end up doing.